everyone, and welcome back to Valorant Challengers North America. Our first grand finalist, Shopify Rebellion Black. Again, huge congratulations. But we still have a lower bracket to go through, as still 3 hopeful teams are trying to make their way into the grand finals. Of course, that is a Winthrop University that's knocked down into the lower finals, but who is going to meet them now? It's going to be Qbert Academy going up against M80. Roy, again, 2 big titans of names and elimination match. One we're about to say goodbye to today.
Yeah, and an insane matchup. Of course, Qbert taking down Envy last night in a pretty hard-fought battle. M80 taking down TSM with a nice, clean 2-0. Now they're going to be battling it out for a chance to play against Winthrop University, and that will get them the slot finally in the grand finals. I'm expecting a crazy match, to be honest. That's really the only way I can put it.
I'm hopeful. I mean, it was great to see Shopify lock it up in 2, but I want to see a 3-map series. But talking about this one, you had mentioned that win that Qbert Academy had up against Envy. And let's talk about this Qbert roster. I mean, Dan, what else he said? These are some of the top names. We've said this, we know this, and being able to see them prove it yet again and again in the server. And there's even supportive people on the team, like D-Dog, Knight's example, that still are able to have these really big step-ups. This isn't just the Redux show, even though he also just pops off, right? Like, there's so much to this roster.
Yeah, there's so much, and that is exactly what we saw yesterday, right? We couldn't stop talking about T-Dog towards the end because he was just getting every single first kill, getting every single multi-kill. I mean, this guy was going insane, and that is something that you love to see from teams where everybody's able to step it up, and I feel like that's something that we talk a lot about, but we don't really get to see as much. There's usually 1 or 2 players that you can rely on, and everybody else just kind of there. But for Qbert Academy, it does seems like everybody is just on point, and they are where they need to be. That's why everybody loves this team so much, I feel like. And yeah, like I said, Redux as well, that key piece that continues to be the consistency that they need to start out those rounds to get those the openings, to get the space into the site. And that's, you know, even when they have troubles, he's able to make sure that everything is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've sort of evolved away from the Redux show as well. I mean, yeah, of course, Redux is an absolute monster on the duelist, and he is a big part of their opening and, you know, big part of the rounds. But ultimately, if you look at all their match histories, it almost feels like everybody on the team has been stepping up, including Knights, the newest addition to the roster. So I think this is one of those teams where they don't really depend on Redux. Yeah, it would be nice for Redux to have a great game. It would make things certainly easier, but they haven't really required him to kind of go crazy for them to close out important matches.
And the fact, too, that Redux can pop off, or also just kind of as a fact, there's other people that can really just be able to get it done, has been really nice. And calling back to that series up against Envy, this was a really, really close one. I mean, we had a map 3 that ended up going into a double overtime here, Dan. And Scuba as well as someone that came out huge in that series. But to see such a close series in this Qbert Academy squad, I feel like this is where we got to see a lot of that experience for majority of these members really come on through when, I mean, we had such a well-fought series.
And as we talked about throughout yesterday when we were watching this game, we kept seeing changes, right, for Qbert Academy. The slight changes in terms of compositions. On Redux, what was he going to be playing? He went back into the Jet for Haven. They were bringing these things that, as they talked about in the interview, it's just comfort. And that's what you need when you're approaching the final stages of playoffs, when you're approaching those grand finals, when you're approaching that lower bracket final that they should be playing tomorrow if they get the win. You want to be comfortable. You want to be playing to your strengths instead of forcing a meta that maybe doesn't work for the team. So it seems like Qbert Academy is at that point where, okay, we tried everything. We tried the meta. We tried a lot of the Tejo. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. Let's figure it out so we have the best map pool possible.
I'm really excited to get into this one too, because this is a rematch between these 2 teams. And it was one that last time Qbert Academy is still so strong with. And the fact that Redux, again, is just so good on the team, but everyone can really just stand up to the power, especially when Envy was a team here, Roy, that we had given a lot of praise to for that pressure they can put on. So Qbert Academy being able to stay calm and disciplined despite that was a really good showing.
Yeah, if there's anything that Qbert Academy is good at is adaptations, not just in the moment, but overall in terms of rematches, in terms of kind of getting reads on their opponents. It really does feel like they play a slightly variated style depending on their opponent. In their last match versus Envy, we saw them do a lot of map control, and they were just sitting, waiting, and just waiting out Envy's just so much proactivity from the Envy side, just waiting it out. But an important thing for us to talk about as well is T-Dog's performance against Envy, right? Now, no shade, but T-Dog's that was a super above average performance for him. He went absolutely berserk on this. He absolutely led the team in terms of stats, in terms of calling. He called extremely well. But there is a factor of how consistent of a win condition is this really, though?
I mean, T-Dog being able to really, really step up, which again, when you're having to IGL through this game and recall and adapt up against an Envy that is constantly pressuring you, to be able to put up such a performance regardless of that, Dan, I think is really, really good. And I think too that this is a smidge on the heels of maybe a couple of other members on the team, maybe not putting up the performance we'd maybe quite expect. So the T-Dog having that step up in those dire moments. So if we are getting to see everybody play to the caliber which they can today, then I don't think it should really be an issue. It's just like, T-Dog, he clutched up when he needed to.
You just need it feels like a few of those players to be consistent enough. And then you have some that once in a while will have a crazy game like we saw from T-Dog yesterday. Because he's been that consistent player that is making the right calls and it's taken them to this point of playoffs. But then you have the consistency of Redux. And then on top of that, you have a really good performance from T-Dog. It's a very, very good combination. And that is what I like about the team, that everybody can step it up at any point. You don't know if it's going to be a specific map, a specific day, no matter what it is. The team is going to be ready, and I feel like it's what you were saying, Roy. It's a team that is not just Redux, it's not just the duelist going in, it's the team effort that is making the difference, and we're definitely starting to see that a lot more. Obviously, when we talk about like the tier 1, we're thinking of G2, this team that is so complete in every way. Everybody's able to step it up, but everybody's just playing the role, and that's how they're winning.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see how that fares up against M80 today, because if we're talking about teams, well, there's a player that can just step up and pop off at any moment. I feel like M80 just kind of encapsulates that. When they did face off in the past, this was before Sato had gone onto the roster while we were still waiting. And Sato, I mean, still, M80 won their match yesterday, and Sato saying, yeah, the day before, I'm still moving. Like, I'm still getting settled in. So this is still a team that there's still so much room to grow, considering all the setbacks that they've had with just Sato having come in and have seen so much stacked against him. So I'm really hoping today that we get to see a really coordinated M80 and be able to see a little bit of a better result or a little bit closer than the last time they faced.
Yeah, the last time these two teams faced, Cuber did take them down pretty handedly, but that was over a month ago. And like you said, so many things have changed since then. And it really does feel like it's a completely different M80 roster. But now the one thing for me that is really interesting for this specific matchup is how stylistically similar these two teams are. It feels like they're all very team play heavy, not a lot of insane amount of individual risk. And whenever there is individual risk, it's within this sort of a constraint of this like team identity, right? Of like how they want to play, this consistent 5v5 retakes or 4v4 retakes. Like there's so much consistency with how both of these teams play and their set pieces and their executes and how well drilled they are on all these layers. It's going to be a really interesting dynamic for these two teams.
I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that when we get to the maps, but I want to circle back to talking about the individuals and not just that team aspect, and talk a little bit more about Sato and this performance that he was able to go up against TSM. Again, Dan, we're still kind of a little bit in this Sato waiting room, not because Sato's doing bad at all, but just too with how much we had talked about, you know, this performances that we've had in the past coming out from him and what he was able to do against TSM. It's still great stuff, but there's still like, we can still elevate a bit more.
He was pretty good yesterday, actually, and I was really happy to see it. I feel like every time that we see this guy, he's stepping it up just a little more and more and more. And, you know, by the time that he's at that form that we saw in Brazil, he's going to be completely unstoppable and potentially the best duelist that we're going to have in Challengers NA. As of right now, he's playing better. I was happy with what I saw yesterday. I feel like he was finally matching kind of my expectations of him on the duelist role and even switching it up a little bit on what specific agent he was going to be playing. So this is a Sato that you need to keep watching. You need to keep seeing him grow because he has been, I mean, he was honest about it in the interview. He's kind of going through a lot of that adaptation process of not only joining this team of M80, but moving to the US from Brazil. I mean, it's such a crazy cultural change, and he's feeling better and better every time. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, it's not even just about the culture. It's quite literally like the logistics of having to move. It's quite stressful. And the fact that he's just doing it so gracefully is honestly a massive statement to his character and to his resilience. And I think that is the identifying sort of word for this entire team. It's not just about Sato. This entire team is resilient. And it feels like even when they're in their last loss, when they got decimated by SRB, I had doubts about how they would bounce back, right? But it really does feel like they've grown a lot from that loss. They came back gunswinging in their last match versus TSM, having a clean 2-0 victory against them. And it really does feel like this team is most certainly on the uptrend, and their growth is undeniable.
Especially too, looking at their last match against this TSM in this 2-0, it was something too where, yeah, we get to see some great stuff from Sato, but again, this team's so team oriented that we get to see really even performances kind of across the board. So that was just like really cool thing. I mean, B-Dog is someone who's just clutching every single situation. Al's just been so clean. Okeanos with this flex, Roy, has just been top tier. And when you're seeing like all the potential of these players to have, like cleaning up the series in 2 is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a big fan of Oki. I've not been hiding my how much of a fan I am of him. He's played so many different roles. He's played duelist, he's played initiator. I know he's trialed under different roles as well. He's very flexible, especially for such a young player. And it really does feel like the level of confidence that he has, the level of impact that he has, it almost doesn't feel that different no matter what role he's playing. He's getting value from his gunplay. He's getting value from his utility. And like I said, these are the 2 teams in the league where, yes, they have a very rigid sort of playstyle, but there is so much room for individual expression, and there's so much room for individuals to have these hero plays that make these wins easier for themselves. And I think that dynamic between both of these teams is going to most certainly be a factor in this matchup.
I mean, Dan, looking back at this last match in this win too, I mean, TSM is a team that we praise a lot, especially with this core, but I mean, M80 cleaned up the series in 2 is definitely a strong look and great momentum to take into today.
It is not what we expected at all, right? We were expecting the 3 maps, and from the beginning, we even thought that map number 1 of Split, that 13-11, was going to go the way, it was going to go overtime, and TSM were going to take the win potentially. Then it was going to be a little bit of a back and forth, but it was a 13-11 and then a 13-8 the M80 get and close it in 2, which again we haven't seen that much anymore. And I'm happy to see the growth, the effort that they've put into this team, the little strats that they have as well, the set plays on that map of Fracture especially, I think have been really nice. And we are not seeing any teams right now that are remaining in the competition that don't have those in-depth ideas. I mean, you need to have them for these maps. We're seeing a lot of Split, we're seeing a lot of Fracture, a lot of Lotus. So it's always those close matches for that reason.
Looking too at these teams, I think a really cool thing to be highlighting here is these IGLs and kind of the differences in between that. The fact that Caillou is someone who's consistently been able to step up, and we're seeing T-Dog come off of a really, really strong performance. But also T-Dog is someone who's been calling for quite a bit, whereas Caillou, Roy, has been crushing it, do not get me wrong, but still a little bit newer if you're having that kind of comparison. So I'm excited to see the 2 of them call up against each other today.
Yeah, me too. And especially considering the fact that this is Caillou's like first time, really his first season being an IGL for such a prominent organization. I think there's just how smooth this transition has been from a player to an IGL within this kind of dynamic is crazy to me. And of course, he's going up against T-Dog, somebody who's, I mean, he's pretty much only ever been an IGL. He's been a leader for almost every team he's been on, if not every single team that he's been on. And I think that experience versus that you know, the drive and sort of the growth that Caillou's had is going to be a factor. And I do wonder how it's going to affect the calling and the mind games that are going to happen between both of these rosters, because we're at a point in this tournament where you don't really have that much more to hide. I mean, almost everything that you could be doing, you've sort of done, or you're going to do any like variations of those things. So it really is going to be ultimately a chess game between the IGLs, the coaching, and how these players can adapt in prep and in the moment as well.
Yeah, it'll be really, really cool. And T-Dog's someone who's definitely been able to prove himself with this calling for keyword, and Caillou has time and time again and has really stepped up in press. But you're talking about the chess match between these 2. I'm excited to see where that's going to take place. So let's head over to the map picks and bans, see what we're going to see ahead of today's series. So starting off, M80, my favorite map, Dan, they're going to be going to Split. I think this one's going to be fun for a variety of reasons.
That map of Split is the one that we saw yesterday against TSM, that 13-11 that we thought was going to go overtime. So I feel like it got a little bit closer than they would have liked. But it's still a map that is pretty good for them nonetheless. Once again, I'm looking at what Sato is able to do on this map on the Raze. He was fine. He was having a lot of set plays that now we've seen 2 or 3 times. Some aggressive plays towards the on defense pushing B. And if we've seen them a couple times and we've seen that as well towards mid, I'm wondering if we're gonna start to see those reads coming for this out of Cuber Academy, or is not, or if it's not gonna be the case. And I mean, still, I feel like this map will continues. I mean, I'm saying map 3 for sure.
Oh, okay. I like that. But
For
yeah,
sure.
Okay. So much confidence. I love that. But yeah, dialing it back to map 1, I think split makes complete sense. Yeah, they did have a pretty close result against TSM at 13-11, a whole 24 rounder. But against Shopify Rebellion Black, one of the most dominant teams that we've had in the league, they absolutely blew them out of the water in that match. It was 13-6, and that was only 4 days before the match against TSM. So and another thing as well for us to know is, unless there's been some compositional changes or some agent changes, it is going to be a mirror matchup. So in terms of what util they have to use, in terms of, you know, what things they have to at their disposal, I think it's really going to be about who's going to be more prepped and who's going to be more efficient, and which duelist is going to be getting the most value as well.
Mirror matchup with Sage as well, right? Because it's something that we were talking about yesterday, kind of how we felt about the Sage. I was saying that, you know, I'm not the biggest fan, but it's something that has given results for these teams. But when you're going to a mirror matchup, I feel like it plays very, very different. And the post plans for these two teams continue to be so strong, right? You have the Tejo, you have the Astra, you're going to have the Sage as well, the Raze Pain Shells. You have so much to work with, but both of you know that.
Yep.
What's really exciting too, looking at the fact this is a mirror composition, M80 only started playing this Sage and this composition after losing to Qbert Academy on Split, when Qbert Academy was the first one to go to it out of those two teams. So they really said, oh, okay, like they got a firsthand taste of what it was like to go up against this Sage and this double initiator. And they really just said, yoink, I'm gonna take it now. And then Roy have been able to be looking a lot stronger since then, because that was a 13-6 loss up against Qbert Academy, losing to the Sage, and then winning up against SRB and TSM in a really strong fashion. So it's definitely something, it goes back and highlights too, you're talking about how these teams function very similarly. And when you said that, my first thought was to this composition and how it is gonna be a mirror.
Yeah, and I think you and Dan are both correct in the sense that when you run this composition, it's not like you're only playing it in officials. You are practicing this composition in practice. Like, you are scrimming this so many times, so you are very in tune with what strength your comp has, what weaknesses it has, how it functions, how, you know, the timing of the utility, how to counter Sage, and there's so many different layers of, like, how do we get by the breach util, like what works against us when we're scrimming and what works against us when in officials, and trying to use these things against ultimately yourself, right? Because you know you're very in tune with those strengths and weaknesses. So I think that the level of proficiency and the level of play that we're going to see is going to be super high in this first map.
That's the one thing I love about the mirror match. And looking at, I mean, we'll bring up the Qbert Academy last composition, despite the fact we're still talking about it being a mirror. So I will get to see the same thing locked in. But I really, really like that. And I think, too, my biggest question is going to be, despite the fact that M80 did switch this right after that loss to Qbert Academy, technically out of the two teams here, Qbert does have that smidge more in officials practice and has looked really, really disciplined on that. So I'm kind of wondering then too, if that's going to be where there is the wiggle room to change, or if we are just going to run back down like the exact mirror here.
Yeah, most likely we're going to continue seeing this mirror match that we just talked about. But I think where it makes a difference, I mean, obviously we just mentioned if you're playing the same composition, you know what the strengths are going to be. I just feel like Qbert Academy just has a little extra experience to adapt on the fly on little things that M80 could be doing to them. We talked about the set plays on the defense that Sato has. The double satchel in usually gets 1 or 2 players towards garage. So you have these plans that I think what Qbert Academy has is that T-Dog is very quick to adapt and very quick to understand what the game plan should be. And it's something that we saw against Envy, one of the toughest opponents that this team had to face. And because you need to slow them down, you need to have a good read on them. They were able to do it against them, so I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do it against M80.
Yeah, I mean, even like beyond the compositions as well, like they have Dapper as the coach. Dapper has been infamously known with the previous Sentinel roster that they're very good at rematches. They can get quick reads on the players. You have T-Dog, you have Dapper working in tandem together, probably an analyst as well. So I do imagine they've made a lot of adaptations. They're definitely read up. They're definitely prepped coming into this matchup, and it's going to be quite interesting. But in terms of, you know, moving away from comps and theory, let's start talking a little bit about the players, right? Because there's so many head-to-heads that are impossible for us to highlight all of them. But now that we have a little bit more time, totally down for it. But specifically, you know, B-Dog versus Scuba, two controllers that have been quite proficient. Bao as well, he's in there as well for M80. They kind of swap roles among themselves, so it's quite crazy the level of talent that you have, not only in the duelist role, not only in the IGL roles, but in all of these other positions as well on the team.
Yeah, that's why talking about predictions for this match, this one was a really difficult. I didn't hesitate locking in my prediction for the first match, no matter which way this went. But I had to really think about this. Yeah. All right. So me and Roy on the same page. I actually voted Hubert Academy first and then thought about it for a few hours and then switched back. This is how close it is. I think when we are looking at just the sheer talent on both of these teams, that it's so stacked and it's so close. But I'm still looking at this. We haven't seen 100% M80, and they're still looking good. So surely then 100% M80 just wins, right?
And what makes you think that we're going to see 100% M80? I mean,
I don't know.
What I want to know.
Give Sato more than one day of moving after moving to settle in.
It's like, it's not like we're trying to argue, but I'm just always the opposite as you guys. Like, what's up? What's up with that? I think Hubert Academy, again, as I talked about, I think it should be a back and forth, but they have the more experience in challengers. They have the more experience compared to what M80 has. And with a Sato that I feel like if they are able to get to the 100%, I do think M80 should win. But I just don't think that's going to happen just yet. I don't think M80 is ready for that yet. I think they're still going through the adaptation process in Hubert Academy. They've been really comfortable for quite some time.
Yeah, I think their bounce back from their last loss has really lit a fire under them. I think M80 is really bouncing back. I'm leaning slightly in favor of M80. I do expect a potential long 3 mapper, so I make sure everyone stays strapped in. But ultimately, I am leaning slightly in favor of M80. I think they're just a little bit more well-rounded.
I still think it's going to be so close, and I'm just hoping the prediction from Dan that, yeah, we're getting map 3 is certainly true. But let's go back to this map 1 as our agent select is ready. We already highlighted we expect this to be a full mirror composition from these two teams, both running Sage as the Sentinel, which definitely has sparked a lot of discussion, but we're going to make it official and eyeing things up. Yeah, Roy, it looks like it's going to be exactly what was expected.
Yep, and everything that we said before was still true now. It's going to be a mirror matchup. It's all about the prep. It's all about which team is playing fundamentally better, and most importantly, closing out the favorable scenarios. There's really no, I feel like there is no room for these kind of errors. You have to close out the favorable rounds. If you find yourself in advantages, you got to make sure you close them out, because this is going to be a tight series.
And it's a mirror matchup, and this is all fun and games, but you got to remember this is elimination on the line for Hubert Academy and M80, two teams that we had in that topper right at the beginning of the Swiss stage, right at the beginning of playoffs. Now in their lower bracket, they're fighting elimination, and last time they faced each other, it was Hubert Academy getting the win 2-0. So there's a chance that can happen again. M80 has been growing a little bit, but this is the real test, right? When you're facing the composition that you've been practicing for quite some time, and it's exactly the same on the other side.
The real test ahead of them, but it's time to see if they can pass. This is time to head into the first map of the series, a mirror composition. And of course, you want to make sure you can take the first map and be one step closer of keeping yourself safe from elimination. It's time to head over to Split and to your casters, Wyatt and Lemon Kiwi. Have fun, guys.
A series worthy of a grand final will be decided in the lower bracket. Sentinels Hubert Academy had them in the first encounter in round 5, but who's going to get the last laugh? Wyatt, this was so difficult to call.
Definitely. Both of these teams have stepped up in the lower bracket after being sent down to the lower bracket, which is what nobody even expected in the first place. And this is a great map to kick things off on. I mean, in total, these teams have played it 8 times so far in Challengers 2025. So it'll be exciting to see a map where both of them feel pretty comfortable, both of them running mirror comps, so also seeing which side is better with this meta look.
I also just love drama, so to stir the pot, like Nisma was on M80 for the Ascension run and has a chance to, and not that this has Ascension stakes. Yeah, we have a lot of stages to go, but you know, facing your former team is always spicy. So Hubert already having that boombot patrol through the mid side, and we look at a garage hit from Hubert with B-Dog just jump spotting. And could be in a lot of trouble. This fault line gonna hit him. And here is the flood with the Sage Wall. Cuber can ignore that heaven side, and it's smoked off too. And Bow emerges. Quick flick from Knights. And Cuber just have to round this corner where Caillou could get a surprise kill. And along with Scuba, or not Scuba, I should say, B-Dog, in case they decide to break down that Sage Wall, it is going to be a free plant for Cubert.
Yeah, they had to take things slow, weary of M80 Util coming back in onto them while they were planting the spike. This wall is such a nuisance for M80 trying to get back in, however.
Oh, just taking the time to break down the wall, and Cubert went around, and they just haven't taken an L, and it's all up to Caillou, who's just going to be aggroed on. So, yeah, we were wondering how these Sage Walls were going to do when these Sentinels are really stepping up to simplify things for Cubert on B.
Yeah, Knights was really the highest impact player in that round. He gets the entry kill, but literally he just is a Sage and puts down the wall. And the wall got mega value. It was never broken. It's tough to break when you only have pistols. Not like you can really spam it. So everyone just has to push sight from the same angle. And when you're doing that against the Breach, the Tejo, the Sage, etc., you're so cooked. I mean, everyone is just staring at this angle. There's nowhere that they can go. They're getting fault line. It's tough, real tough.
See if it'll have the same impact going forward, because wall is expensive too, so it's got to get value. Boombot, same one for Cubert, checking vents, and definitely some presence there. And with that smoke and mail, just hoping to catch a peek from M80. And this double push-up is dispatched by Knights. Beautiful double kill as M80 have high hopes for an A push in the 3-on-1. Scuba still surprisingly gets a trade, as Cubert have weakened the B side of the map off that double kill from Knights. So they're going to waste no time getting a plant.
And Scuba at that extremity was one of the players who just only had a ghost anyhow. And maybe are going to keep things nice, short, and sweet for us so we don't have to talk for another 45 seconds waiting for the spike to be planted and go off. We can just head right into the next round. I appreciate that.
It's minimal risk too with the salvos. How quick Cubert get map control, I don't blame them. So that's been now 2 B hits. And no mid presence this time from Cubert, although they may split off T-Dog, but we'll see if Caillou can hold them back. No kills yet, only 1 kill registered from M80, so now with this rifle round, they hope to make a better splash.
Got that fault line ready from Caillou. Contact out to Okeanos, who's stunned up and doomed at that point. Vandal recovered as well for Redux.
They just did a backflip on his body. Like, so disrespectful. Cubert are so well drilled on these executes. Now time will no longer be on M80's side with the plant. Caillou will be in heaven. Will be slowed but not obscured. Now has to try and converge with M80. We're thinking about coming through the back in all these angles. So Cubert have to hold it down. And that's the start of something good for Caillou with the flash out. Here is the flank from Bow and friends. And Cubert hold their ground, but only for a little while. Just 2 site holders of Nismo catches 2 before being traded. Beautiful salvos, 1v1. B-Dog with the spike touch says no to his opposition, but will have no time. So it's a Cubert win nonetheless.
On the bonus, and it's just off Redux initially being able to double satchel in. Okeanos had revealed himself, gets caught in the fault line, has no chance to trade anything there. Not even trade, he would just have needed to get that first kill before going down, but that is impossible in that situation. And from there, Cubert have a pretty good post-plan setup, but a lot of it also comes down to the fact that Sato's nade, he didn't bank it into hell. He messed that nade up, or that would have connected onto 2 players, so the Knights was able to get a kill from that position. Pretty disastrous little mistake.
Cubert, wow, just the free walk-up from B-Dog punished, and the jig is up. Double satchel, and Cubert have control of B, and M80 really struggled on the pistol to retake this through all the smokes. And now Cubert have even extra time to wrap past the site, but I think it's sage walled off, so they're really holding it down. And Nismo with the read from the mid rotation. Traded. This Caillou will get an upgrade possibly on the weapon, but either way, now you have to invest the flash, and you'll have another one to try and actually get into the site with. Okeanos is the one with the Vandal. It's M80 down a number, got the attention of Qbert from main, and you have one in heaven from M80 trying to find the right timing. Qbert is just so quick to flick and turn, and M80's timings need to be perfect if they really want to shake up Qbert. At this point, Okeanos is going to save his Vandal. Caillou goes down with the ship, and Qbert are looking so good.
They really are. Heading into the next round as well. Knights going to have that res, as does Bao, matter of fact. So we'll see if either Sage can find some high impact by getting the opportune moment to bring someone back to life. Yeah, this is looking clinical at the moment for Qbert. Off that bonus round win. Economy in a nice spot for them. M80 feeling that pressure. They're already going to take this early timeout. They do need to stop the bleeding now. As a matter of fact, they're going to buy up an operator for Sato, which is very frequent. He has the op in his hands constantly on this team. Depending on the map that we go to in the pool as well, they do a lot of attack side opping too. And of course, Qbert Academy are going to be very aware of that, very prepared, but it is a big factor going up against M80.
How does M80 protect B? I think that's what needs to be talked about. First, it started with a B dog kind of jump peeking around the central pillar. Then he gets fault lines. So, okay, do you have to play further back, a different angle? Then you just try to be proactive and you walk up B dog or you walk up members from M80. They get drilled at garage. So they're just giving up B and don't even have the right numbers to even retake. That has felt really impossible. And then you never know if Qbert's just going to randomly go to A. And that's been a little bit more contested. M80 have tried to flank, but ultimately came down to time where M80 couldn't win that round. So I think Qbert can just keep hitting B all night long, but they're going to get some orbs going. Or no, it's the defense getting orbs going.
Out of the timeout, Qbert have actually gotten the operator on attack for Redux. So intentions of taking the pace of the game down a notch and just allowing that op to work the map. Try and find an M80 player that's pushed up a little bit too far or walking forward. Drone is going to clear up ramp. It's also out of position, and what a perfect timing to take that peek as the drone just elevates to go for the scan, draws Sato's crosshair away. That was fantastic.
The drone did not respect the 1v1 there. You just never know how that would have broken it down, and Redux gets the edge against Sato. And that op will be left in ramp. So now 3 stacks from M80 over at B. And what's most important is having Caillou in this picture with a fault line. They need to be on preventative duty, because once M80 give up B to Qbert, it feels impossible to retake. And there's the first fault line. Caillou gets an early pick, but then it's resurrected there by Knights. And Qbert, now no, there's a lot more to expect around the smoke, and just the spam from B-Dog limits Qbert numbers-wise. Cosmic Divide from Scuba, and Qbert just don't have time to plan. B-Dog and Okeanos can just get the chase down, but no, a disengage from Okeanos to depend on the Armageddon to prevent the plant. Smart plays from M80.
Yeah, just guarantees that round win. M80 just barely, but confident in the read that that hit was going to go back to B, and not even so much as a read, it's just Okeanos over at A as Qbert were rotating to B. He was just staying on the line from screen to main, didn't see anyone cross. All right, just stay stacked up with the other 3 players at B. Try and hold it down. The only way we win this round is by hard anchoring together. And they're able to reset up a great crossfire here with B-Dog pivoting to back sight, and then Okeanos swinging through the wall to assist. They played that so well defensively. Oh god.
It's down to just like the dust left from both sides. Hasn't been like a clean win from M80. And now with One traded from either side. Boombot. Okay, good dance from Okeanos. But he's still smoked off, so trying to swing out of that is sketchy as hell. So you got the drone to do what he was supposed to do and just get vision on mid and no one there. So you feel safe about Mail, I would think. M80 have to try and cover this entire map. Showstopper gets into B, and B-Dog wants none of that. And Redux is going to go past that and still not going to make contact. Salvo's coming out. Redux knows. And it's B-Dog with the finish. This could give M80 an entry, and it's an early Sage wall to prevent that from happening.
Oh, I like this from Scuba. Gave himself the Nebula to play with, and now the wall is just going to force M80 to have to rotate away from main or spend the valuable time to break it while the spike ticks down.
Wall is broken though.
One enemy remaining.
And it's just Okeanos that creeps up through hell or heaven. And T-Dog tries to synergize with them. The Boombot not out in time to discover T-Dog. It's now just playing their lives as Cubert. And M80. Oh, I don't...
He doesn't have the time. This is over for B-Dog.
Oh, wow.
T-Dog just wasted enough wrapping around the corner on Pillar. He played that so well. T-Dog in these past couple playoffs games has really stood out individually. He's been finding a lot of lights out moments just like that to step up for the team. Breaks the economy of M80 with that round win as well.
Yeah, Cubert in these dying moments, as long as they have the spike planted, that's their ability to survive here. Like, T-Dog could have definitely just 1v3'd and just wasted so much time. And yet the Cosmic Divide on defense, which did delay some things. But 5-1 is Cubert. Faced a pretty broken buyout of M80.
Sato just trying to prod forward, hoping that someone would maybe push into the smoke, get in that shorty range, but it's not going to happen. Again, Cubert opening with the 1-3-1 setup, just Sage and then Scuba over on this A side to passively control the map. Don't need to rush anything against this anti-eco.
At least I would want to avoid ramp hearing that shotgun, at least from shooting that drone. So don't want to take unnecessary risk if you're Cubert, at least not at this stage. M80 are not doing any kind of walk up in garage, knowing that that's been unsuccessful. So I like the just dialing things back if you're B-Dog, especially off the short is the best position for it. Cubert wanting to take Mail, pushed back by the Sage slow and even the salvos. A good reaction from Cubert. Realizing just who was up there, the Sage and the Breach. Let's go to the part of the map where that won't be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just right back to Sato, who's been chilling with the shorty. Maybe a chance to get something through elbow. Great aftershock to just deny that angle, deny any assistance for Sato, who's then just trapped alone.
Util's been so solid for Cubert. Like, they don't even need to take gunfights, at least vanilla ones. They're just forcing M80 into such uncomfortable spots. Like, even then, M80 somehow win that despite getting hit by something. And this is a possible thrifty. Bao did get an upgrade on the weapon. Everyone started with either shorties or sheriffs. And Bao has a resurrected. It's gonna wall and go for the defuse. And they have to, and Cubert have to shoot this down. He's gonna hold it. I thought he was gonna hold it. That would have been so close and troll.
So silly. All right, Cubert they got a little bit too silly in that round. Like, Knight's going for the long flank all the way through B, but then they're like, Redux is 30 HP. They're swinging into the players in screen that just have classics and shorties. Like, we can relax, guys. We're already winning the round. We can just let ourselves win the round. We don't have to force it any further, but all good. They win that out, but with all that damage dealt, their economy is not in a great spot right now. It's still relatively low. That was a chance for it to become a bit more bolstered, but they kind of threw that opportunity away.
Big round for M80 to try and come back if it goes their way to break Cubert's brains and economy, but same on the other side. And now it's 1-1 for op kills between Sato and Redux. And Sato will get to keep his, and he has a showstopper, so if they break this down, well, I guess the gun will do all the talking. And he's going to try and play as safe as possible, because Cubert have util that could easily overwhelm him. Now mid doesn't seem to be very pushable, and Knight's just freely walking through B main is not going to be helpful either.
It has been a bit of a slow dismantling one by one of Cubert. Knights at that point, they're down 2. He feels like he needs to find a timing, make a play, open something on the map up, but is immediately just in the crossfire when he gets out of B main.
30 seconds
and then
left.
That initial shot from Sato, love the positioning getting on the wall, but I'm surprised that Cubert just happily slow walked up mid off the wall break. Like, they definitely should in that situation be expecting, or at least are aware that there's a possibility that he just repositioned in vents and is holding that angle.
10 seconds left.
Past 2 rounds, things are getting a little bit messy for Cubert after being on a run of some pretty flawless play.
Yeah, early round M80 look like they had dialed things back, aren't going for early peaks because Cubert have just kind of blown them out of the water in those early engagements. And now that Sato has an op, he wants those engagements now, and getting 2 kills was everything. So now Cubert have to just be a lot more careful, as you said. Just to get the second one, to re-peek that and still not get punished is crazy. Like, no salvos, no util. Hit Sato, no push into vents.
I guess maybe on the replay, the thought was that the guy spamming was going to break the wall the same time Teo would peek, so they double face it. I don't know. Regardless, though, it could have been a bit more smooth. Wall instantly placed, instantly dealt with from Cubert. They have certainly made their presence known to M80, who are fast rotating across the map and took control of B main.
If you're M80, you have no idea if Cubert managed to cross into ramps from that smoke. Especially with the orb still up, and Cubert don't have that sage wall at least to worry about for the moment. And then there's just this free mid control from Cubert where they have their breach inserted there from T-Dog. Fault line in both flashes, so really the sky's the limit for Cubert. They are just scaling back up towards A, thinking M80 bit on the fake and are overreading this, but with how pushed up Sato is at B main, letting M80 know the jig is up. It will be the rest of Cubert bouncing their way into A. There was a bit of obstruction getting limited there, and T-Dog catches Knight's mid-util usage. And Redux is so aggressive. Holy cow, a little too much though, and Bao has the res, kept themselves safe. And it's M80 with full numbers now to still try and deal with this stage wall, so they get full vision, and it's the Rolling Thunder from Caillou to lead M80 into the site, get themselves some space. And the smoke is up, that last player, position known, and T-Dog doesn't have like the ranged weapon to really fight back, and is doing the rotation to get maybe a weapon upgrade, but the defuse goes through and M80 take the round.
Yeah, there's just no way for T-Dog, unfortunately. Man, things are just starting to get scrappy for Cubert. They were looking so on point, and now players really trying to force things, find advantages, with Redux pushing past the wall, trying to get in through elbow. Knights is pushed up, ready to place the wall before they even have control of elbow. Timing there just a little bit off. And then when the res comes through, the round is essentially as good as done once they're in that 5 versus 3 and they have the Rolling Thunder.
Ooh, Cubert are looking pretty broke if this round doesn't go their way. They have a res in their favor this time. They haven't hit B in quite a while. They've been confronted a lot more at A, and they're gonna try and test things out at mid. Already just first priority was to deal with vents. That's where Sato has been hanging around. That's the op again. And through mail, that's a lot of info you just got from the Teo drone. So Cubert kind of expecting a swing or just trying to hold on, take their time.
In the meantime, Bao's Sage Wall was placed over at A main. It just expired, but that was just allowing M80 to play elsewhere on the map. Now they have to be more concerned that at this point, Qbert could be wrapping back down mid. They could be going for a split execute onto A. It is possible. But it's Sea-Dog just pushed up alone and caught by Bao. No breach util for the execute.
30 seconds left.
As they try to get in through heaven, into B, but they don't even have control of B main.
And the 3 from Qbert at B are about to get outnumbered, and they still have a Scuba lurked somewhere else. So Qbert are going to have to clutch up big, and it's just barely being won.
One enemy remaining.
Now there's just no time to plant and no carrier
10
to
seconds
even
left.
do the job.
Watching here.
Scuba might have got a W at the opposite side of the map, but it just doesn't matter.
M80 did a great job controlling the map in that round, but I mean, to the extent that I think it really threw Qbert off, their play in that mid-round got really disjointed. Scuba was outside of A main the entirety of the round, and then T-Dog pushing up into a heaven on his lonesome, and then after he's caught, the round is just done because M80 have been keeping a player inserted in B main. Like, even if Qbert went 1 for 1 with that player on B site, trying to get the player out of B main when someone is also coming spawn, they're just cooked. They're so cooked. M80 controlled the map perfectly. Yeah, this is definitely a time where Qbert need the timeout. A good call on that from their coach Dapper, because things are starting to spiral. They're still in the lead, but these past few rounds have honestly been a bit of a mess. And M80 are capitalizing off every little mistake that's adding up.
30 seconds left.
And Qbert, I feel like the map started off so well, like very one-sided, just flooding in through B main, not really overcooking and caring too much about mid control. They would just smoke it off or put a sage wall and simply ignore every other angle. And now Qbert are just cooking up mid pushes and worrying about A. Maybe just going back to the fundies of just, why don't we just go through B main again? Because Qbert won like every trade that happened, forcing M80 to have a much more dialed approach. But maybe Qbert are worried that, okay, now they've inserted Caillou there and the fault line's going to be a problem. And how about this Armageddon just corralling Qbert? Now all the ducks are in a row, and that's allowed M80 to take B garage, and Sato gets a double kill. So Qbert are going to be very behind on this, especially having no salvos. They don't have Redux with the showstopper, so a lot less win cons for Qbert. And as soon as you scale back M80, okay, I thought M80 should have got those kills.
Yeah, this, how are they in a 4-on-2 man advantage now? The res comes through from Knights. Okeanos, that's a tough one. Hate that we caught that on stream. Might have to delete the VOD. That's tough. And this is also on a round where M80 commit their Armageddon into going for this crunch play to just destroy the ecoed Qbert team, but now it requires a miracle for them to win this round.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, M80 were winning 5 versus 3, but here's the double
there's the
and the
miracle.
triple
There's
from
the miracle.
B-Dog.
What the hell are we
Holy cow.
watching?
Scuba 1v2. Quick reactions. Now, safe plant. The Cosmic Divide still in play, and from the skies, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's a dead guy, and it's just a 1v1. But B-Dog has an op, so this is gonna be pretty awkward to react to. The Scuba locks in and gets the W for Qbert.
That round was absolute chaos from start to finish. It opens with M80 sending their Armageddon through Ramen combined with the missiles to force everyone into Sato, who's pushing out of B main. Sato gets his 2, and then I mean, from there it just devolves into madness. Like, Qbert had no business winning that round. Absolutely no business. How frustrating is that if you're M80? And then B-Dog almost pulls it out of nowhere with this 3K. And then they get clutched on. What the hell, man? It's a crazy round.
comedy. We make content that is just comedy.
That is the content round for sure.
All right, Armageddon clears vents for Qbert. Okay, we get it. No one's there, but now you have to shoot down the Sage wall. So M80 are gonna delay things, but it's not even gonna be a male push. But now it's having to push into heaven where there's gonna be a crossfire from M80. This could get ugly, but then you have a showstopper if you're Redux. When does this come out? You got the double satchel too if you just want to ignore the Sage wall. Surely there's someone on the other side thinking they're just so safe. And the person is on top of the wall too, so... Ow. Oh, it wasn't on top of the wall, on the box. But either way.
What is the move here from Qbert? They want to go into this B split, but M80 are stacked up on a kind of Sato controlling A main with the operator. No reason to have these 3 players rotate.
30 seconds left.
Okay, kind of getting hit by that salvo. B-Dog could not take the heat. And then a 1-for-1 trade off the showstopper. Qbert, someone else that's being a problem here. Caillou unable to help anchor B. Scuba with having control. Sends 2 right there.
10 seconds left.
And Sato with the op is a problem. And managed to get the showstopper shot off from just being so wiggly. But Knight says goodnight to that last player, and we have an 8-4 half.
Oh my god, yeah, we're getting some insane plays to end the half. What an attempt from Sato. After you just see the clinical 2-piece from Scuba, who had been inserted in mid, waiting for his opportune time to flank. Perfect timing window, he hits. Mental half, M80 coming back into it. But the last 2 rounds, Qbert suddenly returned to sentience after going to sleep for 4 rounds.
10 seconds left. Spike planted.
Just... These ops are going crazy too on such like a small map. It's not like you're holding an op on a long angle. You're just like satcheling in, or you're bringing out the shoddy and you have like a double kill with the op. It's kind of nuts. And now there's slow orbs and there's just Sato with a ghost who gets the edge against Redux. This will get the attention of Qbert to converge into that mid lane while M80 see if they can test the waters against T-Dog with fault line and a flash.
Drone going out.
Time for Nismo to come over, get the drone up. Gets the info, more than enough info as he's getting missiled and stunned. Barely gets away with his life.
A hit Nismo too and some good damage, and T-Dog brought down to 0. You got the Sage wall at the top of the site. M80 have invested more than enough to succeed in this round. All depends on if Knights can be successful on this flank. The Tejo drone's gonna see that. And then you also have B-Dog in sewers who can come around and assist, but it will just be Qbert having to play this from front to back. Taking care of that star duelist is a good start. Nismo makes contact with Caillou. There's the flash. Qbert halted, not stopped. As time is on M80's side, especially with these kills following through. And it's just Knights in the 1v4. A very clean pistol from M80.
And once M80 are into that post plant with the wall down, it feels like it's just over for Qbert from that moment. Again, just having to spend the time to break that on a pistol round is so frustrating. And then by the time they finally do and can get back in, the salvos that were used earlier have cycled back up, and they're just getting destroyed in elbow by that recycled util. Important pistol round to pick up for M80. They're back in the game. Got 1 Phantom coming into this, couple ghosts.
Phantom and light armor, like, it's like being rich. Jeez.
They haven't gone for the crazy investment on this. Just 2 players with the ghost right now, so Sato going to need to get some work done with that Phantom for sure. Qbert are stacked up for a big mid-trap play.
Boombot gonna reveal Redux, or at least someone there. Will M80 fall into the trap? They also have eyes in B main, and Ropes gets tested. B-Dog takes an L, and M80 give up on the mid push, not having the numbers that they would want. Just trying to get any kind of eyes on top of heaven. Not going to pay much, so M80 used the Sage Wall to get in, and Bao was sort of separated and walled off. And it's Sato, where the Phantom getting a ton of value. Nice nade around the box. Okeanos picks up the other double. M80, well drilled on the anti-eco.
Yeah, they can recover in that 3v5 just on account of having the better weapons. So it certainly gets scary, despite, you know, the Sentinels Cubert team not able to recover real weapons. They only got Ghosts. They're still playing against the raised Tejo Breach. You could still get cooked by the util on entry. So Sato stepping up with that one rifle that they have. And now we're on to the full buy here.
Yeah, Sato is already having such a good map 1, and this is just the beginning of the series. But now the next round underway. Sato carrying through the Phantom. Now Tejo Drone will check out Mail. Slow Orb committed from Vents. And Redux, the way he's kind of posturing makes me think he's gonna come out of here guns blazing. Now with the Sage Wall up, Knights and friends kind of smelt that M80 we're thinking about going through, and the salvos and the Sage Wall to elevate themselves above. They catch Redux, and they want to get the chase down onto Knights. So well coordinated from M80, but does this result in a map win? The salvos and the counter util from Cubert halt M80's progress. The momentum now not on their side. 4 versus 4. M80 just take a step back just to rush back in. As Cubert have one left on the site, and it's Scuba. Friends rotating from mid and back, and Scuba can't live any longer or prevent what feels like the inevitable, which is a plant. But T-Dog will be at top site, or at heaven with no util, and M80 are just being so proactive and have such solid reads on where Cubert are coming from.
They really punished Knights, who after getting the trade, bringing it to the 4v4, was, I think, too happy to try and take another engagement to find the advantage. Ends up overfighting, extending himself too far into Mail, runs into the double face, goes down. And from there, it puts Scuba in a horrendous position where he knows he's going to be getting crunched on from Heaven and B main. Tries to tuck in the corner, but of course that's going to be checked. He is just really hung out to dry. It's a tough situation. Just Nismo, the one player able to save a gun out of this, with M80 not only converting their bonus, but they're able to pick up the fallen rifles as well, which is going to put their economy in a really fantastic state moving forward.
This could allow them to get back into the lead and generate a lot of momentum from that. I just love this wall blade. You're like, what the hell is that? Just 4 players just rising like that.
30 seconds.
And you were able to like delay, you know, you could appreciate the delay out of Cubert. But man, M80, just these plays on the fly are so cool.
All right, Cubert have forced up what they can, ensuring they get the pull by in the next. Nismo, he was the one who saved that rifle, and he wants to take an engagement with it, try and be the hero.
Salvos and vents, I think, and 3 stacked from Cubert. Still with a drone too from Nismo. And they're gonna invest the wall. Or no, they didn't have the wall, but they do want to keep eyes on mid because that's been a pressure point for M80. But they've already pivoted all the way to ramps, and who holds ramps has been Redux. This time with a Bucky. I don't know if you want to mess with that, but is Sato gonna double satchel there or through main? And Tito catches him before he could execute on the satchels. And the fault line, aftershock, and more. But B-Dog gets the spray down through the smoke of all things. There's still one player around the corner, and that will be Redux. Everyone brought back to full health mostly, in M80 keep the goal in mind, getting through Heaven, maybe wrapping around the backside, and no one's gonna early peek from Cubert to contest Heaven. And B-Dog just keeps taking W's and still turns and burns on Knights. What the hell was that? This better weapon, better player, I guess. Scuba, Nismo. Not much to work here.
And now it might just be time for Nismo to save again and bring this rifle into the next round. And Scuba can attempt to go for a kill, attempt to recover a rifle. At this point, economic damage, who even cares for Qbert? Look at the cash for M80. And again, 4 players alive going into this next one. They're damn near all capped out when it's all said and done on round 16. Qbert had a decent chance of winning that out, even with the shotguns, with the bad buy, but M80's adjustment to get into heaven, play together, exposed Redux, who was up close.
Last player standing.
They can't even collect on Caillou. Just going to get another orb for his trouble as well.
No, then, papaya. If you compromise your
The
position,
4-round win streak and a flawless half for M80 so far. And Sato with a showstopper that can just break on in. Just has to be careful when he decides to double satchel into A main. I'm glad the replay is going to talk about this. And forward hold from Qbert. You know, with the weapons that they had, tried to trip up M80, but it's M80 that will just be flooding into A. And Redux with an op. He holds this angle. Could be pretty fruitful.
Yeah, but oh, he has to run. Showstopper's in so fast, and it gets the rocket off before the suppress.
And the op is down for the defense, and M80 break in, but they lost their own duelist too, so M80 hesitate on getting over there. So their plan B, or usually their main objective, has been getting into heaven and taking care of Nismo. Takes care of a lot of problems of not having to worry about these darn salvos, but where is T-Dog inserted? This flash could really hurt. Give an advantage to T-Dog and Knights if they want to swing on this. Caillou has his own flash.
Yeah, M80 are more than content to just slow the game down right now, keep their guns out, wait to see if anyone from Qbert tries to push forward, be the hero, make a play. And in the meantime, B-Dog is just getting some space on B for the rest of the team to work off of. Does he clear this corner? He does! And he's able to win out the duel. B-site is totally free, and it might be another sad save for Qbert. They really don't have the option to go for it.
Yeah, that's tough. And M80, this is now going to be 5 rounds in a row. And they were able to match things up despite starting with an 0-4 deficit to come back and cause a lot of chaos. And now M80 find themselves in a lead shortly, and pretty good to come back from that.
And yeah, early on, it really looked like Qbert were going to just dominate this map. They were up, what, 6-1? They were looking flawless. Yeah. And then little mistakes have just started to add up to the point now where M80 are looking like they're in control of the game, getting close to a lot of their big ultimates. Qbert have recovered that operator into the next round. Do they want to try and force up around it? Probably not. They just need to save for the next to get a full buy in the future. M80 are really looking good. That was a sick rocket kill from Sato to open up the round. He fired just as the stealth drone was about to suppress him. And then Okeanos just having the awareness that someone would be playing in this smoke in heaven, and Nismo would be up there where the drone came from. They missile him out, get a free kill. Really lovely round.
I think Redux just has to pivot, like, where are you going to posture this op at? Because if you play too close, you're just going to get fault lined and kicked in the teeth. So
yeah.
how far back Qbert want to play?
Yeah, and they actually do have enough money to force up around the op. I mean, it results in T-Dog just having a stinger. There's a Guardian on the field, but not too bad overall.
And Redux is just going to play in that same spot. Surely Lightning won't hit at the same place twice. He wants to go up against B-Dog if he checks that. At this point, just keeping Qbert in their place, and it's going to be a mid battle as M80 will be facing a Sage wall. And Knights is not going to be on top of it this time.
All right, Qbert get a lot of info towards A with that stealth drone from Nismo. They know that B-Dog hasn't tried to lurk up when he had the Nebula on the cross on A site. So the defenders can keep their attention drawn over towards mid and B, where the hit looks like it is going to actually be coming in.
Cuber keep giving up more and more map control, and M80 can also use the enemy Sage Wall to like impose a fake and go elsewhere, but M80 just hope to make contact. Quick swing from Sato to get revenge. B main progress ensues, and M80 get wins across the board. You don't blame Cubert with kind of not having as much armor, not having the best weapons. M80 dodged the salvos, doesn't hit the planter, doesn't even force him to reposition. And Redux and Nismo feel like they have to fight this, even with the state of their economy.
One enemy remaining.
And that is just a free kill. I mean, even if Sato didn't hit that, Nismo was going down to B-Dog. And that felt like a moment where Nismo and Redux are just sick of saving. Nismo saved so many times. Like, I just want to fight. I just want to try to win one of these rounds. Despite them stacking the proper side of the map, Cubert still just get dismantled by the M80 hit. The placement of their utility is really excellent. And even at the end, when Scuba is tucked backside B, as soon as they have that timing on when Scuba's Nebula is going to drop, he's aftershocked. He's got multiple people ready to fight him in that position. It's so orderly for this M80 team. Cubert are forced to take their second timeout. Things are looking pretty disastrous at this point. They have the max loss round bonus. It's been 6 strong in a row, so they can keep forcing up. They can keep saving the op. Just keep buying around it. We got to keep trying. We have to win around at some point, and we have a hell of a lot of ults to do it.
Feels like a lot hinges on Knights with male control and how they've just kind of paced back and went further and further back. First, it's just been the wall, and usually when that's been shot down, Knights throws out a slow orb, and that buys enough time for Knights to get a little bit more help on that high ground. But then why would you ever want to play male after this play? You never know when they could even just Sage Wall on top of it or break it down. But this defense needs to find a way to delay more on mid, or you have to just hope you can get multi-kills, because even when First Blood comes out of M80's defense, it's like immediately traded. So, or out of Cubert's defense, I should say. Like, the one here is awesome, but no trade or nothing more.
I would really like to see Cubert try and take and fight for some of the map control, because on both sides, attack and defense, M80 have been dominant in that regard to the game. Like, on all those replays, you're seeing all the Cubert players are just trying to anchor in sights all the time, and they are getting torn apart by the array of utility coming in from M80. They need to control some forward space, which will allow them to set up some better crossfires when the hits come in. Just being relegated to these passive positions, and they just can't fight out of the fault lines, the missiles that are coming in on top of them.
So much depends on if Redux can make something happen with the op. That's probably why Cubert are buying up. They just think this is really going to work out. But this has been an M80 that hasn't lost around this half, so getting pretty close to the end of the map too. This Cubert have to turn their odds around, and it won't be when it comes to breaking M80's economy. They are so rich. Redux could find a first pick here. And wow, Sato just swings on him with the Phantom and gets the win. No op for Redux. An M80 site broken into. Knights is smoked off and slowed, even if you would think about dropping. And Armageddon is what can buy the real estate back there from Nismo to stop the plant, to delay things. This could work out for Cubert. All hinges on the duels, but man, Caillou is so good. The 3K all of Cubert hope to drop out of heaven. And Cubert are 6 feet under.
Caillou has been so sharp with the aim from beginning to end of this match. I feel like every time we're on his point of view, he is just snapping perfectly to someone's head. Lines them up for that additional 2-piece after the first. I mean, and then also, listen, we just got to take it back to this kill from Sato. This is insane. The swing out crouch instant headshot is some filthy work from the Brazilian import, who is evidently here to just take over the scene.
Wow, Redux is so muted this game. And he's trying to be the big playmaker. He's trying to be the hero, but Q*bert's Academy has been... their economy has sucked for so many rounds. You're expecting the L here. You tried to go for something flashy and surprising. Q*bert haven't gone for an early round jump out in quite a while. Now M80 are about to be on match point, and I don't think there's going to be much Q*bert can do about it. They've had full buy rounds that haven't put too much of a dent into M80. Now Q*bert will have to play flawless from here on out. See what the 5v3 yields, but it's not looking good for Q*bert. If they pull off this thrifty, I'll eat my words. Like, I'll go bald, but like I don't think this is gonna happen.
Go bald. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a 0% chance of bald Gen in 2025. Unless you want to make that bet again in a different situation. But yeah, this one, no. Not gonna happen, sadly.
Out of charges. One enemy remaining.
What the culture needs, it will not get.
30
I
seconds
would not be a very good looking golden boy looking character in this. So I'm so sorry. So sorry, everyone. No content for you, but
It's tough. I mean, you kind of have the GB glasses. Like, they're like similar enough. Damn, it's too bad. Wait, there's still a chance though. Isma's alive. He can pull this off, surely.
I believed you for like a half second. I was like, all
Surely
right.
he's got this. Hold up.
Grenade is live.
Oh,
Hair saved. M80 just look a little bit too good right now. Q*bert try and mix in an aggro play, just send Redux through B main, but even at that, the play was pretty light, and Sato refuses to miss a shot. I think I recall the desk calling upon him to show out, and he heard the call. He's going crazy right now. 21 for 15, hitting some not just insane shots, but high impact ones. Some of the entries have been really outrageous.
Flash out.
yeah. Q*bert have to unboom themselves because even TSM went like 11 to 13 against M80 in their last showing. This is M80's choice of map, of course, so Lotus will be coming up to see where the series will go. But M80 also are stacked up of ultimates. You got the forgiveness button on Bao, a showstopper from Sato, who's converted on pretty much even every single one, including when he's been shot at. Here's the adjustment from Q*bert, because Knights has needed some damn help on this high ground, and it's got to be Redux. No action yet, though.
Slow's just being used to temporarily control mid as Q*bert want to go back in towards B. It looks like they want to re-clear B main, but it's smoked at the moment. And Nismo's been holding this line, so the defenders really think that this hit is going to be a B split. But Nismo is about to feel massive amounts of pressure.
30
And M80
seconds
know
left.
that the Tehodron was just used, so they got to worry about these salvos. But if you can't see, maybe it's not a problem. Cosmic Divide to seal off ramps, and he's suppressed, so now you literally can't use salvos. So
Spike planted.
goes through from M80, and this is for the win on the map. And there's a Sage Wall blocking off screens, so Q*bert are just stuck. At least they have a full buy. This is the best chance they're gonna have in several rounds. It's been a flawless half from M80. And can they keep up perfection? It's the nades that force M80 back, and Salvos catches the tail end of Bao. Sato gets the trade, but the flooding continues from Q*bert, and they resurrect themselves back to 5 with the fault line from Caillou to hope to stop the defuse. It gets to halfway. The rolling thunder from T-Dog and the rest of Q*bert come together one last time to break the streak from M80, but no time to defuse wall with 0.48 left. Wow.
And all it required was a hell of a lot of ultimates from Q*bert, but playing for the full retake is not a bad idea when you have this comp, and I'd rather see them do that than play in the way that they did in some of the previous rounds where M80 were just rinsing their site anchors. They do a great job scaling back in together, playing off of that rolling thunder as well. The backside util is great. It combines with the salvos from Nismo. That Bao just forced to run into them because of everything that was coming in through elbow. That is what I want to see more of from Q*bert on defense.
Still the judge buy from T-Dog. But hey, this is the map to rock a judge at. But ooh, peek and oh wait, okay, at least the showstopper still goes off. And both duelists remove. Bao has a res. Gets Sato back in. And Qbert are smoked off, so they can't even swing off of that sound cue. So we're left with M80 in the lead.
Again, taking their time in the mid round, as always, leaving B-Dog to work this A side of the map. And if he goes too close, it looks like he's probably going to go down. No, never mind. That was the instant snap on a T-Dog. Puts him in the grave.
Hey, B-Dog versus T-Dog. I just noticed that. Crazy. The judge didn't come out quick enough.
He's cooking them.
B-Dog, the alpha, and M80 to surge in. And there's only so much that Scuba can do.
Off your feet!
And his head is just underwater at that point. Knights tossed up from the Rolling Thunder, and M80 command map number 1 on Split.
They go on an absolute tear on the side swap. Their site executes were fantastic. All of their utility was getting a ton of value, and the attempts from Qbert to just hard anchor the sites were being absolutely dismantled piece by piece. Players getting flushed out by util into the crosshairs. That was some excellent play. After Qbert start looking electric on their own attack side, they're up, what, 6-1? And then it just begins to completely spiral out of control. What a run of rounds. That was so impressive from M80.
To be down 1-6, like M80 is built differently on that attack. Clearly they came in with all the protocols to just pull off a perfect half to get Qbert looking so lost. And Qbert's been one of the best teams in all of Challengers, and that we expected to go to the grand final, and we just may not even see them in the top 3, which is so insane to say. But Qbert have our map pick coming up next. It's Lotus, but first we have to hear from the desk, so we'll see you soon.
We started extremely late. I kid you not, we have 3 weeks of practice. I said this in the first week. We walked into the first week having 1 week of practice, right? But the amount of work that we've put in compared to everyone else is absurd. It's like an hour and a half to nearly 2 hours of server, 4 blocks, and review afterwards, and with homework afterwards, right? The team is like gelling together pretty consistently. Obviously every team has some days where we're peaking higher than others. I think we recognize what we need to fix instantly, and I think that's what makes this team so special. I always put 100% into whatever team that chooses to play with me. Obviously, Blinn was a more unknown team. It was like a collegiate esports club. While M80 is like, the principal of tier 2, they have made essentially grand finals twice now, so they obviously have that level of prestige to them, and so that obviously has to affect my demeanor as well when it comes to just overall like how I present myself, right? Because right now I'm not just establishing and representing like a group of people that enjoy the game. I'm representing like a high profile organization that has had tons of gravity in the tier 2 scene, right? So I obviously have to hold myself up to a higher standard, and I'm trying to do that. but I'm also blessed and grateful that I was chosen to be able to, fill in